Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Above the Yellow Line live stream on a Wednesday night. So thanks for tuning in. We changed the nights around this week. So good to see you all and already in the chat. Adam, Ravaging Wolverine, always good to have you guys. Love wins and kindness rules. First off, love the name. Also, yeah, it's a good week to be a 22 fan. I'm sure that Dom, you're very happy about that.
Love wins and kindness rules, and they're a Joey Logano fan.
We love this.
The
We love
world is
this.
healing.
John, hello. Yeah, Logano escaped the playoff curse. We love that. Just a resident, just kind of Joey Logano fan. How are you feeling after this weekend?
I'd like to know what the playoff curse is.
So I think we're throwing it back maybe a year prior, or I guess 2 years prior, 2022 when he won the championship. 2023, you have that championship slump. So, I would say maybe we're carrying it over to year 2 following a championship.
I don't think it's not that he has escaped the curse or has broken the curse. It's that he's following the trend. It's an even number year.
Yeah.
And, the one thing I loved about that race, as a Joey Logano fan myself,
Yes.
self-proclaimed, it's like I thought it was crazy that we saw two different strategies play out. In Joey was ultra aggressive, and the only way to win is to be up front, versus Denny Hamlin. The one way you can win is if you stay at the back and let the wrecks play out in front of you. And that bit him. He ended up being in a wreck because he was at the back. So crazy how that worked out. But Joey Logano's into the next round. Watkins Glen, he can take his time going through there. He's a winner there before, but he can just relax with that one, get through that weekend, and then go for another crown jewel in the Bristol night race, get his third one there. And all that is 2 extra weeks to prepare that Kansas car.
Yeah, I think too the key thing with the next 2 races is road courses for some drivers can be very hit or miss, right? And then you have Bristol. They're bringing the same tire compound that they had in the spring to Bristol, which was terrifying to a lot of teams. So that's going to throw a wrench into the plan for a lot of these teams. At least we've had experience with that tire and how crazy it was, the fall off and everything like that. But Joey doesn't have to worry about any of that. He just has to build up his points. That's all he has to worry about now. But will be very interesting. You mentioned Denny Hamlin, his really interesting strategy play. I understand trying to be safe. Denny was like, we just want 20 points this race. And I'm like, bro, like in the past, you've missed out on the playoffs by a few points. Wouldn't you want to maximize it? So it was a very interesting strategy. He leaves the race at Atlanta only 2 above that cutoff line. Then you see below it, we have Harrison Burton minus 16, Martin Truex Jr. minus 19, and Chase Briscoe minus 21. Brad Keselowski also below that cutoff line, but he has wiggle room to move above it. He's pretty good. These other drivers have got to be sweating right now, I would imagine.
Yeah, definitely. Martin Truex Jr. is kind of the surprising one, but I also felt like Atlanta Motor Speedway wasn't going to be his best friend. Chase Briscoe, it's unfortunate being involved in that wreck with Kyle Larson, but this was kind of the expected outcome for him, like to not be above the cut line. No disrespect whatsoever. Just we're just comparing him to the competition, and Stewart-Haas Racing has not been one of the top teams this year. Harrison Burton, I mean, if he can walk away the 14th in points, that team would be stoked. So not too bad for him. Brad Keselowski can definitely still breathe, only being 1 point below that cut line. You don't want to be below it, but if you're going to be below it, be only 1 point. So, but no, I have to agree with our resident Logano fan in the chat that was a very non-Denny Hamlin race.
Agree.
Because I think about the recent races we've seen at Daytona, Talladega, he makes it a point to be up front and lead all those laps and be a contender. I've noticed also that they've crashed out in those, but but you don't get stage points in the back. So
100%.
that helps towards the championship, something he hasn't won. You would think he would do everything in his power to go max points all the time, especially that he had some taken away.
Yeah.
But no, looking at the cut line here, it's aside from, I would say, Truex, it's the usual suspects.
Right, and I think too, somebody else brought this up. I mean, same person, love wins and kindness rules. Kyle Larson, obviously, he and Atlanta Motor Speedway with this reconfiguration are not friends at all. He DNF'd this weekend after a gnarly hit into the wall. Glad he's okay. That also collected Chase Briscoe. Chase Briscoe coming into this race, Dom, like you mentioned. I mean, it was going to be a Cinderella story for him to get past the first round. I think obviously he earned that win at Darlington. I actually had him making it into the second round. And in hindsight, I was messing around to see if like should it be Chase Briscoe I have moving into the round of 12, or should it have been Austin Cindric? And after this race, God, do I wish I put Austin Cindric. I had him potentially winning Atlanta. He led 92 laps, which is awesome. Unfortunately, an issue on pit road cost him. But I also agree too, is as a little upset as a Blaney fan to miss a win there, upset with the continued bad luck for Truex in his last year, 100%. Both points valid. But Penske sweeping the stages and then, of course, getting the win, that's a statement. Also considering we mentioned the kind of championship slump that drivers can go through that doesn't seem to be the case for Blaney right now, which is good. So
Yeah, so far so good, and he had a good points buffer coming into the playoffs as well with his 2 wins at Pocono and Iowa. But something to be said about when you dent up that 12 car and throw some bear bond on it. He finds speed, so he gets the job done. I think that's a happy top 3 for that 12 team. And at the end of the day, you didn't win, but you pushed your teammate to the win. So you're going to make everyone in that shop happy.
yeah.
So that's just kudos to Ryan Blaney, just being a class act teammate. Obviously, I'm not saying this as a Logano fan, just taking all the glory of Joey winning, but it's true that you would rather push your guy to the win. If you're out of the conversation for the victory, push him to the win, and that way the whole team's happy. But I tell you what, Austin Cindric did exactly what he needed to do, and that was Team Penske's going to bring good stuff at a super speedway like they always do. And he did not mess around, went up there, led laps. I believe he won stage 2. So yeah, max points. That's what you need. And look, now you're going into Watkins Glen where he's comfortable at, won his first career Xfinity race there, I believe. Yeah, he is good on road courses, and he's got a 27-point buffer to the cut line. So that was talk about who won the day. Team Penske won the day.
Yeah. And then, of course, we talked about too, the team that lost was Joe Gibbs. I mean, for Christopher Bell to finish inside the top 10 was kind of shocking. He's a driver, again, that we underestimate, kind of comes out of nowhere a lot of these times. And then before you know it, he's in the championship 4. But obviously those engine issues prior to the race for Ty Gibbs, who also was in contention to win the race towards the end, but just fell back in position. Martin Truex Jr. as well. And then you have Denny Hamlin. Like that hurt things a lot. So, but yeah, this is how the points stand for the drivers heading into Watkins Glen. We'll preview Watkins Glen a little bit later in the show. Solid day for Chase Elliott. I saw one of you in the comments talk about how it was, relieving and kind of refreshing to see him have a steady drive on Sunday. I would 100% agree. I think going into the playoffs, we were a little nervous with how Hendrick Motorsports would perform, but we also know that they lay dormant towards the middle of the regular season, kind of beefing themselves up for the playoffs. So it doesn't surprise me there. Alex Bowman had a decent run as well. So
had a good run, had a real good run that 48.
I am nervous for him for Watkins Glen, though. We'll talk about that later. But I was looking at his stats the other day because he gets top 10s at Circuit of the Americas and the Roval. Like those are his bread and butter for road courses. Everything else is just like
yeah,
on the screen.
Yeah. See, I can give him his props because my guy won the race. So yeah, no, Bowman had a good race.
He did.
Couldn't beat the 22 though, but
couldn't quite do it.
No, I mean honestly, that whole race he was carrying the flag for Hendrick. So credit where it's due. Good run for the 48.
Also, something else with Atlanta, just briefly talking about this again, Austin Hill is unbeatable at Atlanta, it feels like. He's got the win this weekend.
He's won 4 of the last 5,
I
believe. Yeah.
Dude is nuts.
Fall 22, spring 23, spring 24, fall 24. So yeah, he has been unreal there and on super speedways in general.
Yeah, he's nuts. And of course, the Xfinity Series, their playoffs don't start until after Bristol, I believe. Bristol is the race that sets the tone for them. Huh?
First playoff race would be Kansas.
Yeah. So they have a few more before they start their playoffs, but good for Austin Hill to get another win in there to help his rank. So, yeah. My goodness. And then also, in case you guys are curious, this is how our points look. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I'm so sick of changing the graphic every time. So we're just gonna cross things out now. No disrespect. I love you boys, Rob and Brandon, but here we are. So with our playoff run, Adam is still in the lead. I'm still behind. Ben's behind. Then Dom has a shot. You still have a chance to.
Listen,
You
I
still have a
may be
chance.
rowing upstream, but I'm rowing regardless.
Yeah.
Until I let go of this paddle, we're gonna keep rowing.
And that's okay. You got it. You know what? It's progress. It's progress.
It's the pride that matters.
You know what? And that's okay. Yeah, Ben got the win this weekend. He was the best of the rest. I had Austin Cindric as my pick, so I would have been the best of the rest. But then,
I can't with all of Adam's winter stickers.
I,
That
I
looks
think
like
it's
Larson's
9.
car from
It does.
2021.
Oh my God, yeah. Oh Lord, but no, he's done. I mean, honestly, most of his picks this year have been Denny Hamlin, so it is what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, so our point standings look. Of course, in the playoffs, we have a whole different format. But if you miss race, you cannot contend for a championship. So we have the 4 of us left, and we will go from there. But if you guys have questions, comments, concerns, I'm already seeing some in the chat. Like, put them in there. We'll talk about them. But let's go into some NASCAR news. Not a whole lot, I think, has happened this week.
Not really. No, I thought it was funny you said any concerns.
I mean, if there's any concerns, like if anyone's worried about something.
Concerned about the kid that only talks about spiders on the show.
I wonder who that is. Oh my goodness. Doesn't Dom get to advance since his driver won? So that's his favorite driver, not the driver he picked.
I picked Chase Elliott. He was my
he picked
statistical favorite to win the race. I commit to the statistical top 10. I don't go based on favorites or Toyotas like I did last year.
Yeah, that you killed with that one, man.
I might have to come back to that.
Yeah, you might.
Spiders are people too, ravaging Wolverine.
Yeah, I learned to appreciate spiders. You'll be proud. I found a spider the other day in my apartment. I let it outside. Didn't kill it.
See?
Didn't get scared. So it's helping.
See, you're on the road to recovery.
I am. Now the roach.
You know what? It pays forward.
It does. Now the roach
will
I found
pay
in my
it
apartment
forward.
though.
That one mosquito that could give you a mosquito bite will get eaten by a spider. Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
Spiders are our friends. PSA.
Spiders are our friends.
PSA. Let's get into some news.
Speaking of spiders, no way to transition. NASCAR news.
Yeah, there's no way to transition well into the news, so we're just gonna go into it. Somebody mentioned this earlier. We don't need the graphics on the screen anymore, so we'll just do this. Kyle Larson announced at Charlotte Motor Speedway press conference that he is running the double yet again, and then Tony Kanaan will be his replacement driver in case he has to leave the Indy 500 early, because yes, they made it very clear that the priority will be NASCAR. It will be to run the 600. Rick Hendrick even joked with Steve Phelps about that. He goes, "Hey Steve, like, you want to answer this one? Just, what's the priority? Even if Kyle Larson was leading with a few laps to go and they had to leave to make it on time, that's what it is." So, thoughts on, I'm looking at your comments. I love this. Thoughts on him running the double yet again? Obviously, this is a huge win for not only just NASCAR, but IndyCar.
No, for sure. And it's a win for the Indianapolis 500. I think that's the big thing here. I think IndyCar could take or leave it, because this race transcends IndyCar. It's great for the 500. That it deserves. The Indy 500 should always be the greatest drivers in the world competing 100%. To win the race. It isn't that way, but unfortunately, you can't get them all there at the same time. Just not possible, especially when F1's at Monaco the same day. Just not plausible. But regardless, no, it's great because Larson is very good and proved this year that give me the right stuff, we can win the damn thing. So that alone should have earned him a second chance. But I'm glad that it's right out of the gate. Like, if there is any circumstances where the two races come together, he's going to Charlotte. He is going to run the 600. So I'm glad that's all taken care of. I'm excited for him. I think it's great because aside from Tony Stewart, would have thought would have been the odds-on favorite to win the double back-to-back, but didn't. And
Mhm.
I think that's what makes it kind of a tall task to win both. If Tony
Yeah.
Stewart couldn't do it, because I mean, people forget how freaking good Tony Stewart was. Um, Incredible race car driver, especially when he
Yeah.
first started doing the double in the 90s. So, um, but I'm not putting it past Kyle Larson because dude is a wheelman.
I mean, the fact that what was it, 2 years ago, Larson was really close to winning the 600. This was either 2 or 3 years ago. He had a really good
2022 is
yeah,
when he had a rough first half and then
great
stormed
second
back in
half.
the second half.
Yeah. So I mean, it's possible. I think if anyone can do it, it's going to be Kyle Larson. And yeah, this is the other question that was asked too. How would all the media stuff go if he wins? Jeff Gordon and Tony Kanaan kind of joked. Jeff was like, I'll celebrate with you, Tony, if we have to do it, but Larson's gone. Like,
Yeah.
so again, the priority will be the 600. One, you have the whole waiver debacle that I do not ever want to get into ever again. That was awful. So you have
I'd
that.
love to see NASCAR changes that rule next year.
I think there's a
It
lot of
cracks down
rules.
on it.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of rules that NASCAR is going to relook at next year, including the playoffs potentially with the win and you're in and stuff like that. There's a lot after this year that I think they're like, ooh, there's a loophole into that rule. But yeah, between that and then of course just that being a difference maker as for Kyle Larson winning the regular season championship or not. Larson actually made a really interesting comment during that press conference talking about how I know we all like to look at that one race, but it was kind of like a whole season thing. He's had 5 DNFs this season, right? That makes a big difference too between that one point where he lost out on the regular season title from Tyler Reddick to having a bigger points buffer. Obviously, of course, missing one race is going to be the straw that broke the camel's back, but
Yeah.
the DNFs are they count towards a lot for Kyle
Yep.
Larson this
Let's
year.
stack up.
Yeah, they stack
Sure.
up.
Yeah. No, it makes me think of Kyle Busch. In the first couple years of Joe Gibbs Racing, just absolutely steamrolled the field, was the fastest guy, but couldn't close out the show.
Mhm.
So, kind of the comparison there. But I think Larson's title hopes are a lot better this year. I mean,
Yeah.
Kyle Busch had some years where he would dominate and was the odds-on favorite going into the chase, and then collapsed because Hendrick was ready for the playoffs.
Yeah.
This was during the Jimmy Johnson dynasty.
Oh,
But
yes.
um, no, I think Larson's in good shape here, and that they have made mistakes, but this point system's very forgiving, so they can get away with it.
Yes. Yeah. Again, another thing of like the playoffs point systems. Do we
Yeah,
like it? Do we not? Don't have to get into that
points
this
don't
time.
matter.
The points don't matter. It's whose line is it anyway? So, also great show, by the way. I like the when Drew Carey was on it.
Fantastic,
That was so good.
fantastic show.
Yeah. God. Also Wayne Brady. We love Wayne Brady.
We love Colin Mockery.
Colin Mockery is a king. Love him. Yeah. Oh,
It's
such
the
a good
clock
show.
news.
So good. Yeah, and then the other thing too, like a marketing win as well. Kyle will bring eyes that might not
Definitely.
have otherwise watched, which is a big deal too. And I think for me, someone who's just gotten into IndyCar recently, as like I guess like last year, not even last year, 2 years ago, it was a really big deal to see somebody like as talented as Kyle Larson trying to attempt the double, and that made me feel more incentivized to watch it. But even then, like I was only really watching the Indy 500, but then I was like, "Oh, this sport is actually really cool. Let's watch more." So it's a good like gateway into getting more people invested in IndyCar. And I will say this year, Dom, I don't know how much you've kept up with IndyCar this year, but it's been confusing with all the
And
driver changes and just it's felt kind of unorganized this year, and it's been very hard to follow from my perspective.
yeah,
So
I think their biggest downfall is they don't promote it.
yeah.
You never see IndyCar commercials. You never see any like TV time talking about the upcoming races. I know
Yeah.
racing isn't the big news headline for any sports channel, but regardless, like I have to look up when the next IndyCar race is all the time, like because I
Mhm.
never know. I never know when IndyCar's racing next. So, and
Right.
I bet you a lot of the folks in our chat don't know that their next race is this Sunday and it decides the championship.
It is the championship. Like
Yeah.
that's
So
yeah.
like a lot of people probably don't, and I guarantee you nobody knows who the contenders are. So
And I'll be
it's a
honest with you,
shame.
like I looked at who the contenders are. I mean, it's Alex Palou, Will Power, and I think Scott McLaughlin's kind of in it, but like if we had a conversation about it, like I would have been like, I have no freaking clue. And I would have looked it up and I would have forgotten, to be quite
I have
honest.
no idea what Power needs to do to win the title either.
It's really,
I know Palou's the points leader, but I
yeah.
have no idea what the implications are, what the must finish positions are.
Yeah, like, and that I don't know either, which is a huge problem. I know after talking it through with one of my buddies, that watches IndyCar, like, religiously, he was like, "Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much Alex Palous, but he has to either do pretty bad for Will Power to get it or, for Scott McLaughlin to get it. Everyone else has to just DNF and fail."
Yeah, I think
It is what it
what's
is.
interesting about this race, though, to give IndyCar some love here, what's
Yes.
interesting about this race is that Palou is notoriously not good on ovals.
Yes.
Like, he doesn't race on ovals well, and it and you're going against Team Penske. Doesn't matter who's in
Yeah.
the car. You're going against Team Penske, where you have to be perfect because they're bringing their A game. So
Ooh.
that's what makes it a genuine interest of a battle.
Mhm.
But that's all there is to it.
Well, and Vanilla Thunder also recognized them from TikTok, so thanks for tuning in. Has an interesting point. IndyCar has one of the best TV deals next year for motorsports, at least for us in the United States. Is it's on Fox. Like, they don't have to deal with streaming and stuff like that. So that's a big win for them. And hopefully, because of how Fox is with NASCAR, they promote it properly.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
And that could also it could also just be like the politics of the business, and
Yeah.
NBC doesn't like that they're losing IndyCar, so they're not going to promote the races, and now they're just going to let Fox take the reins as soon as the championship's over. So
Yeah.
could be something as feeble as that, but
Yeah.
who knows?
It's also good to see how many like IndyCar fans we do have in the chat. We love this.
Yeah.
Yeah, IndyCar is something I want to talk about more. Obviously, as you can tell by the shirt and everything behind me, NASCAR is the priority. But I do have my not Will Power. Oh my God, sorry, Joseph Newgarden, Indy 500 diecast right there. So like,
I've got my Scott Dixon Target car on display
look at us.
out in the back.
Look at us. Wow. See, we like IndyCar too. It's fine. There was one comment I did want to address. Would you like to see them move the 600 to Monday so more drivers could attempt the double? It's the double for a reason. It's all in one day, right? And also moving it to Monday when it's been rained out to Monday, like it was in 2023.
No.
That was awful. That sucked.
It's Sunday is the world racing triple header. You have the Monaco Grand Prix in the morning, the Indianapolis 500 midday, and the Coca-Cola 600 finishes the day.
Yep, it's a whole day of racing.
Yeah.
I did see this rumor too, which I thought was interesting. IndyCar rumor is Zach Brown from McLaren is heading up marketing.
That one's. I mean, he is the CEO of McLaren.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
that wouldn't shock me at all.
Indy fan, Ben.
IndyCar. Okay. We'll be right back.
All right. So done with that conversation point. Oh my God.
Can't say that one.
So good. All right. Let's talk about. I saw some comments in there earlier in the chat. I want to see if I find them again. If not, no. Okay. I am going to talk about charters this time. Last show I said we're not. But because there's some major updates, we're going to talk about it this show.
We got updates this time.
Yeah, because I was like, it literally has just been like, here's the rumors, here's what could happen. I was like, I'm so done talking about rumors. Let's just talk about stuff when it happens, and stuff did. So Friday, according to The Athletic, other credible sources, Jenna Fryer, sure. Then I'm so sorry, but Jenna Fryer has talked about this too, so I'm just going to throw her name in there. Even Toby Christie. Everyone at Matt Weaver have been talking about this, but Friday NASCAR issued a deadline to the team saying if you do not sign this contract or a charter agreement by midnight, the repercussion could be we take your charters away. According to the teams, according to credible sources, that was what was kind of brought forward. So all teams but two signed. Those teams that did not sign are 2311 Racing, which is not surprising. The other team might shock us all, and I'm sure you've already heard about that. Front Row Motorsports did not sign this as well. And overall, of course, they did not go into detail about things as this is a kind of closed behind door negotiation, but they did not feel that they were given things that would help them be successful. As on the opposite side of this, Justin Marks talked about kind of this whole thing on Sirius XM NASCAR radio. He said there's, quote, there are things in this agreement that I really like that are going to be very, very helpful for us. There are things in this agreement that are different from the way that I would have wanted them to end up. There are going to be some challenges. He said ultimately, though, at the end of the day, this is a deal that we can build a business on. He also did commend 2311 Racing, Denny Hamlin, for his commitment to trying to change things, because they've kind of just put this on Denny's back a little bit to try to promote the change for the charter deal. But at this point, it's like, what do you do next? Uncharted waters, pun intended. So it's interesting stuff. We have two teams that have not signed. Other teams have. What's the leverage? What can you do? The Athletic did say several teams did feel maybe coerced or maybe forced to sign this agreement. But again, Justin Marks and Brad Keselowski said they didn't feel forced to sign it, but that a deal ultimately needed to get done. And this was the most that they felt NASCAR was willing to bend on things. So, Dom, I don't know if you have any takes on this, anything to add, or interesting.
Well, I mean, it's on brand for Denny Hamlin, who has been from out of the gate very anti-establishment, in the terms of he wants his fair share,
Yeah.
and doesn't like that they aren't budging at all. What hurts him is the fact that all of his allies are gone now.
That's the problem.
He's on. I mean, yeah, you got Front Row Motorsports, but if you could have had one of the big dogs like JGR or Penske or Roush or Hendrick, maybe you have some leverage. But
right,
I think they were all just so tired of the back and forth, knowing nothing was going to get done. They just took it.
Yeah.
But I mean, credit to Denny. He believes in what he believes in and is going to fight it to the very end. But I just think it would be very interesting if NASCAR decides we are taking away the charters of Michael Jordan's race team.
Because it feels like there's no way, right? I mean, probably one of your biggest boosts in the past few years to get NASCAR mainstream again. And again, we don't know the legal wording in these things. It's, do you think 2311 will attempt legal action, not knowing like if the threat is actual? None of this we know. I don't know.
I don't think they can, because NASCAR makes the rules on the charters.
Right. So it's so tough, and I do commend them for being committed to having this be better for the teams. I know a big part of the deal that was concerning is how these teams can conduct media, if they can do media in-house, if they have to be done at NASCAR studios. That was a part that was also mentioned by the Athletic and Sports Business Journal, which I thought was very interesting. NASCAR wanting the teams to utilize the studio and really not liking the teams making media in-house. I thought that was very odd. But there's parts of this deal that we don't know about that the teams are going to know about. But at the end of the day, it's tough. I hope it doesn't come to the point where they're taking charters away, because even too, Bubba Wallace during media time this past weekend says like, my ability to re-sign for next year, because that's kind of his thing, it's like sign a multi-year extension, it hinders on what the charter agreement looks like. And since they haven't signed anything, he can't sign. So his future, I would say, is at stake in the sense that we don't know what's happening to their charter at 2311. It's very interesting. So, good question too. We can maybe talk about this. Why did the big team sign and not support him at all?
I think it's not knowing enough about it. My guess would just be where they're at right now. They already have the blueprint on how to make it work.
Yeah.
So they're just like, whatever. If you're going to if you're talking about taking charters away, there's no reason to fight this anymore.
And the big thing is that somebody mentioned as well, it was Ravaging Wolverine. Yeah, is that 2311 and Front Row Motorsports are teams that have either just got a new charter or are looking to expand their team, and a charter agreement impacts them in that way. So that's also something interesting, or I guess a common thread between 2311 and Front Row Motorsports is that recently getting a charter or wanting to get a charter. There's other common threads there as well, but it's interesting. There's also like an anti-disparagement clause where you can't talk badly about maybe the sport, talk badly about the charters. There's a lot in this deal that has come to light that is very interesting. And again, it's a huge document that we only get bits and pieces of, and we probably are only seeing a lot of the bad sides of it as opposed to the good based off of what's been vocalized by the team owners. So I also want to play devil's advocate there, but it's interesting, and I'm curious to see how this goes forward. I did also see the Sports Business Journal, Adam Stern, did post an article that they are getting close to a driver incentive program to be more active in the media landscape and things like that. So seeing if that takes into effect, if that's part of this agreement, what does that look like? So something else to be kind of cognizant of as they move forward into the future for NASCAR. But this deal, of course, goes from 2025 through 2031. But very interesting. And yeah, I will say Farmer Motorsports standing with 2311, it feels kind of lopsided in terms of like power a little bit, but I respect it. I respect it.
I mean, they've been in the sport for a long time, and they got an alliance with Roush and
Yeah,
Ford. So
that's true.
they've got a little bit more. They've got way more leverage than they would have 10 years ago.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So I have on my social media page a graphic like walkthrough of all of this if you want to know more about it, see more comments. But it was for me interesting to see the difference between like newer team owners with Justin Marks and Brad Keselowski versus like Denny Hamlin and then from Motorsports, their comments there, Bob Jenkins and stuff like that. So it's all so interesting. There's so much to digest. If there's any other NASCAR news you want to talk about, let us know in the chat. We're going to move on to our Watkins Glen preview. As you all are excited about, is JPM is back. So I know you guys are wanting to talk about this. We will talk about it now. First off, before we get into your top 10, Dom, what are our expectations for Juan Pablo Montoya?
For Montoya, I mean, I think top 10 isn't off the table. I think that can happen for sure. I don't foresee him going out there and being top of the field. I mean, if he is, it's awesome, but I don't know. I just don't see it happening. But no, I think top 10's on the table for sure for him. Listen, he's incredible. Guy won in Formula One, won in IndyCar, won in NASCAR,
He's insanely
won
good.
in IMSA in a prototype. Like he can drive anything. So I don't see him having any trouble at all adapting to this race car. So I'm looking forward to seeing him in person. That'll be awesome to see him race. Yeah, I have high expectations for him. I think top 10 is on the table for him. But it's just cool to have a name like Montoya back, especially because he's not just because he's traveled so well, but he has made such massive impacts everywhere he's gone.
Yeah.
Like, sure, NASCAR wasn't his most successful stop on the way, but he is a two-time winner. One at Sonoma, one at Watkins Glen. Won a couple Xfinity races as well. IndyCar, he's a two-time Indy 500 champion. I believe he's won the IndyCar championship too. Formula One, when Michael Schumacher was dominating for Ferrari, his number one contender was Montoya every week.
Mm-hmm.
The one guy that was the thorn in his butt every week, not letting him run away with it, was Montoya, because Montoya demanded his respect.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he is a warrior. He's a hell of a race car driver, and it's an honor to get to see him race.
Yeah, and you're going to be there in person, so I'm a little jealous. It's going to be so much fun. But yeah, oh gosh, yeah. Insert obligatory jet dryer joke.
Oh, here we go.
And then just, ouch. I love that.
Taylor, do you know what year that happened?
Oh, dear God.
Without looking at the comments, you will eventually answer.
No, I'm not going to look at that. Was that like 2014? Somewhere in there? Earlier. It was earlier, wasn't it? Yeah. 2008? 2012. God, okay. I was in between.
2012. Yep.
I just know what happened. I didn't pay attention to the year. I was like, oh, dear God. That's interesting. All right. Yeah.
2012.
Dear
and that
God.
was the first Daytona 500 to run on a Monday.
All right. There we go. Look at where we are now with Daytona 500s and rain delays and stuff like that. Anyhow, yeah, if you guys have other NASCAR topics you want to discuss, leave them in the comments below. But for now, let's go. This was a light news week. So I know there was like a short conversation
Yeah.
time. But let's go
Yeah,
to the top 10.
nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that at all. Great.
All right.
Oh, sorry. This is a new layout that I guess I just discovered. I
Oh,
like this a lot. All right,
I'm into
let's do
that.
it. Top 10,
All
Watkins
right,
Glen.
so here is our top 10. And luckily, because we only go to Watkins Glen once a year, we have full stat breakdowns, full career stat breakdowns for Watkins
We
Glen for
love
each
this.
driver. Um, right out of the gate, let me mention that we have one, two, three, four, five drivers making their first start at Watkins Glen. Big number for our full-time
Wow.
guys. Noah Gregson, John Hunter Nemechek, Josh Berry, Zane Smith, Carson Hocevar are all making their first career starts. Berry, Smith, and Hocevar as true rookies.
Crazy.
Gregson did not run last year. Mike Rockenfeller was in the 42. And John Hunter Nemechek's technical rookie year was 2020, and they did not go to the Glen in the COVID year. So those are five guys making their first Cup Series start at Watkins Glen. So now let's go into our top 10. I'll go from back to front. We'll start with the defending NASCAR Cup champion, Ryan Blaney.
There you go. I was like, wait for it.
The pride of Hartford, Ohio. Yeah, so he's 10th on the board. Looking at his numbers here really quickly, has average start of 16.7, average finish of 13. His best start is third, best finish is fifth, has only 2 laps led, but he has no DNFs. And I believe he is one of our few guys that has completed every lap, every possible lap in all of his starts at
Wow.
Watkins Glen. So reliable.
Yeah, he's a driver that I think we don't think about a lot when it comes to road courses, but he's won. I mean, at the Roval before, the first race that we had at the Roval, and he's consistent, quietly consistent at these tracks. So keep
For
an eye
sure.
on him.
Certainly. Ninth on the board is Daniel Suarez, who, of course, his first career win came on a road course at Sonoma. So he can get it done. He has 3 top fives at Watkins Glen, which is actually pretty solid. His average finish is actually 13.7, so a little bit higher than Blaney's. But honestly, their numbers are pretty similar. He's got 14 laps led. I believe all 14 came in the 2017 race when he was a rookie. Could be wrong there, though. I believe all 14 came in one race, though. Also, no DNFs on his end. 8th on our board is Joey Logano. Honestly, the man that's got nothing to lose this weekend.
Yeah.
So Joey Logano's 8th on the board, the 2015 winner, and that came in a weekend sweep. He also won the Xfinity race that weekend as well, but he has not won there since. But he also has, he's got several more top fives and top tens. His average finish is 15.8, so you can see where if he's not on it, he really is not on it.
Mhm.
So it's just kind of back and forth with him, and pretty much the Fords on road courses haven't been stellar this year, especially Penske. So don't be surprised if he's not a factor in this race at all, especially when they don't need to win this race and don't need to worry about.
Yeah.
He's still going to go for the points because it's going to help him for the next round, but just don't be surprised if they kind of just lay low during this race. He has 35 laps led. He is our first guy in the 1000s in laps completed, 1,152, but he does have 1 DNF.
Okay.
7th on the board is Denny Hamlin, and I have to. I'm so sorry, Taylor. I get to see the FedEx car in person this weekend, and I found this out minutes before this live stream, and I almost cried. I'm so excited to see this car in person. You have no idea. This is my favorite FedEx paint scheme of all time. It's absolutely gorgeous. Can't wait to see it. So excited. Okay, back to this. Denny Hamlin's 7th on the board. He is the 2016 winner. Fun fact, Logano and Denny went back-to-back years winning the Daytona 500 and the Glen in the same season.
There you go.
Oh, yeah, just fun facts. That's
So
what we're here for.
so will William Byron then win?
He's the defending winner of this
Mhm.
race, so there's a chance. There's definitely a chance for him. But Denny's got a ton of starts at Watkins Glen. Looking at his last handful since his win in 2016, because a lot of his before that, he's only got 4 finishes inside the top 10 before that 2016 victory. But after 2016, you got 4th, 13th, 3rd, 5th, 20th, 2nd. So very consistent. And just, I mean, that's also just the transition towards the end of the Gen 6 era and has really adapted to this next gen car really well on road courses.
Mhm.
Didn't get to see him run at Sonoma at all because the engine blew up on lap 2.
Yep.
So, but no, expect Denny to be a contender. Average finish is 15th. So again, still we're at 7th on the board, and Blaney still has our best average finish. But he also has 2 pole positions, which
Okay.
is something that helped him out a lot. 21 laps led, 1,452 laps completed. His big problem was before he got that win, 3 DNFs.
Yeah.
So now 6th on our board is our defending race winner, William Byron, who, as we climb through here, has now the highest average start of the people we've mentioned so far. Average start 7.8, and the best average finish so far 11.6. He won last year. His finishes prior to that 8th, 21st, 6th, 22nd, 1st. So maybe we get a top 20 this weekend. Keep the trend going. Let me see, 8, 21, 6, 22, 1, 23, maybe he finishes
Yeah.
23rd this weekend. Book
And
it.
I know you'll get to this probably, but something to keep in mind too, Hendrick Motorsports has won, what, 5 Watkins Glen races
Good
in a row.
question. So yeah, 18, 19, 21, 22, 23, 5 in a row.
So
Yep. Elliott, Larson, Byron. Maybe it's another Byron.
You never know. Stats.
He's got 66 laps led, and they all came last year. So he led the most laps last year. Only 450 laps completed, but no DNFs. Again, his rookie year was 2018, and without a COVID start in 2020, he's got very few numbers to pull from here. 5th on the board is Brad Keselowski, who has probably the best stats for the guy that's never won at the Glen. This is the most painful part. 2011, 2012, 2013 finished second every year. And 2011 was behind Marcos Ambrose when the caution came out for David Rudimann's wreck, where he barrel rolled out of turn 1. 2012 was the last lap of the century and just couldn't get around Marcos Ambrose. Marcos passed him in the last turn on the final lap. Best lap I've ever seen in my life. And then 2013 did everything in the first Gen 6 era race at Watkins Glen, did everything he could to get around Kyle Busch, couldn't do it. Kyle got his redemption for the wreck in 2012 and won that race. But 3 consecutive seconds for Brad Keselowski. Hasn't finished second there since. Actually, after that string of second places, he's only gotten 3 top 10s since.
Yeah.
So not the best numbers. 13.9 average finish, but he does have 123 laps led. Has led the most laps only once, and over 1,100 laps completed. No DNFs. That's something to remember for this weekend. 4th on the board is Martin Truex Jr., who won this race in 2017. And a lot like Denny, was in and out in terms of contention at Watkins Glen before his win in 2017. Since then, the win in 17, second, third, 23rd, 6th. So has really turned himself into a contender. Now has the highest average finish as we continue to climb up the board. 10.6 average finish on his side, 69 laps led, 2 most laps led, 1,500 laps completed, no DNFs. So
it's good.
Very impressive for Truex. Next up is Kyle Larson, 3rd on the board. The 2-time winner, 2021 and 2022. I want you to listen to these starts. His average start is 6th. Career starts at Watkins Glen from 2014 up. 23rd, 6th, 2nd, 5th, 5th, 4th, 2nd, 5th.
That's insane. That's insane. Oh my God.
He is a super qualifier at Watkins Glen. Finishes, of course, you can't usually match those numbers as consistently. He has an average finish of 12.2. Has started second 3 straight times. has 2 victories, 21 and 22, 38 laps led, no DNFs on his end. So I know he had a bad Atlanta, but the stats say he'll be A-okay this weekend.
Yeah.
Next up is the guy that also has won twice and also got his first career win at Watkins Glen, the most popular driver, Chase Elliott, in the number 9 Napa Chevy. Another really good qualifier. His average start is 7.3. Of course, got his 2 wins in 18 and 19. Had the issue last year when they were on the bubble. I believe they just ran out of gas on the racetrack,
Oh
was
God,
their
yeah.
demise. Finished 32nd in that race. But other than that, 2 13ths, 2 firsts, a second, and a fourth. I mean, you can't ask for better numbers. Now we've got our new highest average finisher, and this is the best of our top 10, 9.4 is the average finish of Chase Elliott. 170 laps led for Chase Elliott. Very impressive. 3 most laps led in only 629 laps completed. He's led 170 of them and no DNFs. Just incredible numbers for Chase Elliott. A definite favorite to win this race.
100%.
And last but not least is our once again obligatory, when he was at Joe Gibbs, he was really good, Kyle Busch, driving that number 8. I don't see it this week. I really don't see it this weekend. But let's just give him his flowers. 2008 and 2013, he won at the Glen. In 2008, that was his, I believe, his 8th or 7th win that season. Went on an absolute tear in his first year with JGR. And then in 2013, after a rough 2012, it was a rebound year for that team and just a stellar day at Watkins Glen that day. He's got great numbers, 7.8 average start, 10.7 average finish, has started on pole 3 times and won twice. You can't ask for better. 249 laps led, 3 most laps led, 1,602 laps completed, which is the most among active drivers, and still no DNFs at the Glen for Kyle Busch.
Insane. I mean, and I know we want to look at other playoff contenders too, but to talk about momentum though for Kyle Busch, I know this will probably not be the weekend where he gets a win, considering who he has to race around that are in the playoffs. But momentum is a powerful thing. 4th at Michigan, 2nd at Daytona, 2nd at Darlington, 7th at Atlanta. I mean, they finally have found something with that team.
Certainly. Yeah, definitely. And I think too, like, that team is now hell-bent on keeping Kyle's streak alive.
Yes.
So credit to them for continuing to push. But I really don't, because the pressure of the playoffs is on for these guys. But you never know. I mean, we saw Eric Jones win the Southern 500 in 2022.
Everybody loved that.
Playoff guy. So
everybody loved that.
Anything can happen. Our first guy out of the top 10, and looking at his numbers, it's actually very surprising he's not in the top 10, is Tyler Reddick.
Yeah.
So just everyone, it's okay, everybody. He's 11th. Didn't make the top 10, which is kind of shocking looking at his stats, but just couldn't. He's got the, it doesn't make sense. I don't know how these numbers play out like this. He's got to have some other issue. I think he's only got 270 laps completed, which isn't a lot compared to these other guys. It's actually like almost half what everyone else in the top 10 has, almost.
That hurts him a little bit.
So he's only got 3 starts at the Glen, which is kind of crazy to think about. He's only run the Glen 3 times in a Cup car, but his average starts are 8.7, average finish 8.3.
It's consistent.
You can't ask for better. Has never finished outside the top 10, 10th, 7th, and 8th, and has never started outside the top 15, 13th, 5th, 8th. He's got only 2 laps led, though. He's just consistent, and the way they've run this year, absolutely I can see him win this race. But yeah, just missed out. Christopher Bell is 12th.
Makes sense.
Ty Gibbs 15th. He's actually got 2 starts. His finishes are 26th and 5th. Who else we got? Austin Cindric is 18th. Chase Briscoe 20th. Alex Bowman 21st. and that should be, or no, Harrison Burton. Harrison Burton
Don't forget about my boy Harrison.
has 2 starts, and he is, of the people that have stats, he is last in 29th.
Okay.
Average start 31st, average finish 30.5. He's not a road course guy, which is understandable.
Yes. Now, something that many of you have alluded to in the chat, and I did want to talk about, is there is a new tire compound for Watkins Glen that promotes more tire fall off. We got, what was it, 3 to 4 seconds of fall off is what they're expecting. The director of racing at Goodyear said, in our ongoing efforts to introduce more fall off, we've tested at Watkins Glen in June and came out with a new tire that will accomplish that goal. Based on our results, we should see around 3 seconds of fall off per lap over a run. That, of course, can mean more passing throughout the race. It's always tricky on road courses as drivers take advantage of a limited number of passing zones. So the increased fall off should lead to more comers and goers as some drivers manage their tires to gain on the field as the runs go on. So you look at a guy like Denny Hamlin, who is pretty consistent with really good tire management, right? And you see him 7th on that grid. I mean, that could bump him up a little bit more, maybe potentially put him as more of a threat. Like, you see, when you have like tire management races, I think it favors some of the older guys. And I mean, I know Ryan Blaney's on this list, but he's not good at managing his tires. He's notorious for not being good at managing his tires. So that makes me very nervous for him in particular. But I'm really excited about this new tire compound for Watkins Glen. I think it'll throw a wrench into some teams' plans a little bit. I know with road course racing, the strategy can't always be there. We've tried to get rid of stages before just to see if it makes anything better. It doesn't. So this, I think, will be a nice change of pace for road course racing. At least I think so.
Yeah, I think so too. It kind of brings back a retro feel to it.
Yeah.
And really, really brings the pit crew into it, because beforehand it was just how long can you go on fuel?
Yes.
And then they would just reverse the strategy,
It's not
run
that
the race
easy.
backwards, if you will.
Yeah.
But yeah, this adds a new wrinkle. It makes it more interesting. It makes it more on the teams as a whole to get it right. So definitely, I'm all for this. We're all about more fall off, and if we can get that, that's awesome. You just mentioned Denny, and I looked at the car again. It's just, I can't wait.
I saw your face. I was like, he's looking at me.
I looked at the car.
Yeah, Denny Hamlin, actually a quote from him. Denny Hamlin said, I certainly think that it could definitely play a role in strategy, talking about how the tire would change. It's been so straightforward in the past. You just want to get to those stage points, and then you go ahead and pit. But certainly if tires are going to matter, it seems like they might. It throws a whole element into it. He said it's not a huge gimmicky element because you have to strategize around tire wear. The drivers play a huge role in that. So certainly I've got my fingers crossed that it's a race that's going to be unlike any road course we've seen. So a good quote from Denny Hamlin there about the tire. Speaking of him. So should be exciting. I did see somebody also in the comments mention something I was going to close out with, talking about the Xfinity Series. Connor Zilisch is making his Xfinity Series debut in the number 88, one of several races he's running the rest of the Xfinity Series season. Dom, you and I, we talked to him like a few weeks ago, beginning of August, really. And he kind of cut his teeth on the road courses. So I would assume he's going to do really well. And considering we know how good that 88 car is when we've had some one-off drivers in there, I would say a top 10 is absolutely in the question, even a top 5. I don't think that's impossible. I might be overshooting it there, but
Yeah.
I totally think that's possible.
I mean, if you don't think he's a good road course racer, you should ask his Rolex. So, I mean, listen,
There you
he's
go.
got a Rolex 24. So,
Yeah.
say no more. He's a road course racer. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, the way Carson Kvapil has run that 88 car this year, I think a top 10,
Yeah.
top 5 is definitely on the cards for him. I mean, would we be surprised if he won? I mean, Ty Gibbs won his first career start
I was
on
going
a
to
road
say,
course.
yeah.
So, I mean, it could be done. Obviously, there's variables, but I think he can be a contender. So the kid's the real deal. I think he's got what it takes.
Mhm.
And this is just auditions for that 88 car next year. Just
Yeah.
letting everybody know, like, this is the I have arrived race.
Yeah.
Putting the field on notice for what they can expect next year.
And even
But
too for the fans, it's like if you liked watching me race in this car now, you're gonna love it next year. I'm gonna be racing for a
exactly,
championship. So
exactly. And,
yeah,
I mean, all the talk has been about him, but the only other chance to see him is at an ARCA race.
Mhm.
But now he's with the big dogs in Xfinity. Nothing against ARCA, but we're one step away from Cup here. So
Yeah.
I think he is about to put the world on notice, and this could be a huge weekend for not just him, but for junior motorsports who have been
100%.
trying to get themselves back in that championship contention spot where they are taken seriously as the title contenders. I think he's the guy.
I mean, and even too, for road course racing, you look at Sam Mayer, he's proven to be quite the road course racer, winning what? He won Portland. Was that Portland this year? Last year?
Now he won Road America last year.
Road America last year. There we go. I mean,
Yeah,
even look at him just for how he's done in the past. I know Justin Allgaier was close to winning. I
Road
think it
America last
Road
year.
America. Yeah, they're
Yep.
always so close, and then they just they just go
Yeah,
away. And then
Mayor won
yeah,
Road America and the Charlotte Roval and the Glen last
yeah,
year.
yeah. So I think it's going to be interesting, but obviously you have to look out for SVG
Oh,
always for that for that series. It's like SVG or nobody's winning
final
it.
boss.
So I honestly really do hope that we see a battle between Connor Zilich and SVG for the
I
win. I
think
think that'd be super
honestly,
entertaining.
like that, you make a good point. It's like, yeah, you're good, but you've got to face the colleague two-headed monster
Yeah,
of him and AJ.
AJ. Yeah,
So, but obviously, AJ would like for his team to build him a better race car. Um, I
yeah,
just think that would be awesome if that's your top three. And
yeah.
it's just because I can honestly see this being a thing where those three just check out on the field
And
and it's a race
I
amongst
love it.
themselves, which
Yeah.
would be just awesome.
Yeah. I will say if you typically don't watch the Xfinity series, watch it this weekend. It's gonna be so fun. Even to like me being biased. I love Watkins Glen. It's probably my favorite road course we have on the NASCAR schedule for all three NASCAR National Series. But just the field that we have in the Xfinity series of our road course ringers, adding in the fact that it's Connor's first Xfinity race, it's gonna be so cool. So make sure to watch it. And then of course for the Cup Series, Juan Pablo Montoya is going to be in a Cup car. So that's reason alone to watch. But thank you all so much for tuning in to this episode of Above the Yellow Line Live. He's going to grab his sign. I'm waiting. I'm just waiting for it. I'm waiting for it. There you go. There you go. For all NASCAR news, other stories, recaps, go to tobychristie.com. And then, of course, for more from us here at Above the Yellow Line, where you can find us on our social media pages, ways to support us, our partners, as well as like merchandise, because, we want to see you rep the hats at the track. Go to abovetheyellowline.com. And, of course, our social media handles are on the screen for you all. But it was so nice to chat with you all this evening. Enjoy it. Enjoy the weekend. If you're traveling to the track, stay safe. But we will talk to you next Thursday. So we will see you then. Of course, again, thank you all so much for your support. And